Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, this is the trigger warning. We're going to be talking about messed up stuff. I will describe it as a different moniker in a moment, but for right now, it's PG-13. But we will be discussing anything horror, dark culture, bad things, which could involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, and there will be graphic language. So if that's not your cup of tea, go listen to something boring. Otherwise, away we go. Coming up soon, we will be interviewing a David Pryor, director of The Empty Men, and then as well as John Skip. But today, we have the pleasure of the company of Mr. Jack Amos, best known as the actor as Gertie in 100 Tears. He's also on the Uh-Oh Show, and starred as General Shafter in a documentary about the Spanish-American Civil War, which sounds really interesting. Welcome. Hi, Jack.
Hello.
How are you?
How you doing?
Fantastic. Pleasure to be.
Before we get started, is there anything you want to plug? Anything currently working on?
Now, I'm largely retired, as much as an actor has ever retired. Which is to say, if you offer me a paying job.
I was just going to say, your plug is yourself. You are available for work. That is also not uncommon.
We've had a few people say that.
In this interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like. And fair warning, actually, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Chris, but Jack and I, when we were lining up the times for this, he acknowledged that he does not consider himself a horror fan. He's just an actor who's been in quite a few horror things. And I said, you know what, let's do the interview anyway, because I know when Chris and I were practicing interviewing each other, I would not consider myself a horror fan either, but I discovered that there were elements about it that I do like. And so I thought, if you want to, and Jack was game for it, I said, let's do it anyway and see what comes up.
Yeah. And if most of the answers are no, then it'll just be a quick interview.
But we'll be coming at these. We're going to ask the same kind of questions, these 3 different ways regarding different points in your life, because sometimes doing that triggers memories that you'd forgotten. But it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there's anything that you don't want to answer, you can just say pass and we'll move on. Okay. But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Well, I was back in the days black and white, so the horror movies I was watching, and I did enjoy back then, were things like Dracula and Wolfman, and
okay.
Let's see, I'm trying to think of Phantom, and then of course there were the Abbott and Costello ones, Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman, and
right.
The Mummy. And then I enjoy those old movies. They're not the same kind of horror as today.
Definitely.
And then while I was young, probably not childhood, I did watch and enjoy Carrie, because I am a fan of Vengeance movies. So I just watched Pumpkinhead recently, and I liked it.
It is a classic. You can always go back to Pumpkinhead.
Okay.
So it's if there's a vengeance aspect to it, then I'm watching a vengeance movie as opposed to a horror movie, and I'm perfectly all right with gru and gore and blood and guts.
Yeah, with vengeance movies, because then the person having the violence acted upon them is someone who deserves it. So you're like, yeah, pop their eye out of socket. It's great.
Oh yeah. Like the first teenager that gets killed in the movie.
Right.
He's usually the biggest dirtbag.
Yeah, usually.
Any idea why you like vengeance movies?
Well, I grew up as kind of an outsider kid. I was a 3-letter sportsman in sports.
Okay.
I also graduated with honors in AP classes, and I was also a theater kid. So while I got along with everybody, I was never a part of any group. And that's one of the things I noticed about horror fans, and I also belong to Mensa, so there's another group of people who I categorize as don't fit in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm a full-fledged member of that group. Don't fit in.
Well, at least you had the
Hard carrying
three-letter
member.
sportsman thing going for you. If you didn't have that, just having the others, that could have been rough. But having the 3 letters helps out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I ran across somebody recently on Facebook that thought I was a big hero in high school. They said, "Oh man, I'm so glad I found you. You were, we worshipped you when you." Seriously, you could have mentioned it then.
You're like, right?
Right.
Would have been nice to know. You were the local Rhodes Scholar.
I'm usually over there in the corner by myself, Maybe one
Better late
friend.
than never.
I think that's fair for a lot of people in high school. A lot of people don't realize that, or by the time we get older, sometimes we forget. I had a friend connect with me on Facebook actually just a couple weeks ago. I had sent her a friend request actually years ago, and she just now saw it and added me. We got to talking, and it was she mentioned stuff that she remembered that I completely forgotten, which I felt bad about, but that it happens. Okay, so a little bit of an outsider.
Yeah, picked on a little bit.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Of course, the ones that tried to pick on me to the point of fighting usually discovered that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
I was an athlete. One of my letters was in wrestling.
That does come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
So Carrie and Pumpkinhead, would you classify those more as like something you saw in your teenage years, or?
Well, Pumpkinhead I saw for the first time like in the last week.
Oh
wow.
Okay.
I said, "Hey, I'm going to do a horror podcast here soon. Maybe I ought to check this one out."
Yeah.
And I liked it. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Lance Henriksen is great in it.
I'm thinking that another one of the things is the production quality of horror movies. And, I've been a professional actor for a very long time.
Mm.
And like I said, I've worked on big sets like, The Waterboy, Any Given Sunday, and stuff like that, where major getting paid actors are working. And
Big leagues.
a lot of horror movies are friends and family and shot on whatever record.
Shoestring.
Yeah, that's a word for it.
Do you find that to be more fun?
Pros
and cons, probably, right?
It's all a job to me. I'm very serious about my acting. And whenever I go in front of the camera or in front of an audience, I am 100%. I give it all I got.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was going to say there's probably pros and cons. It's more of a family atmosphere, but probably also a bit less organized sometimes.
Sometimes. I've been on professional sets that were
I was thinking that as I was saying that,
without using the word cluster.
I was thinking that as I was saying that. I'm like, yeah, I can see it the other way too.
Any Given Sunday was Stone was the director, and he's a cocaine head, and we'd be doing a night shoot, and we'd get there at just before dark for hair and makeup and wardrobe and all that stuff. And we might sit there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning before we shoot anything, because we had to wait on Oliver Stone to straighten up enough to come out and direct the movie.
Meanwhile, you're falling asleep and he's wide awake.
Yeah, well, everybody made a lot of overtime and golden time on that particular movie. So,
complaints.
Yeah, I don't complain that much when you're making that much money.
Right. That's what I said. Pros and cons.
Yeah.
All right, so go back to the childhood stuff. Dracula, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera. Anything else jump out at you that you remember? You mentioned Albert and Costello.
Well, I remember I used to watch Dr. Paul Bearer on Saturday.
Nice.
Of course, this was a day of three TV channels. So,
right. Yep. There was Channel 8, Channel 13, and Channel 28, I think.
You watched what there was to watch.
Yes.
Well, 44, of course. That's where Dr. Paul Bearer was.
Yeah, Chris was a big Paul Bearer fan too.
Oh yeah, right. Creature feature every Saturday.
And he goes a long way back. I mean, he's a long time before Elvira showed up.
Really? I had no idea he went back that far.
Oh yeah.
Were you?
Well, there might not have been the same person either. True. It might have been
Well, yeah, the legacy continues. The original Paul Bearer that I grew up with has since passed, R.I.P. But there's a local guy in Tampa who's the new Dr. Paul Bearer. So yeah,
Right.
it is kind of like a
Torch
legacy.
passing.
Yeah.
And this was in South Carolina too. So I mean, it's just
Okay.
there may be a franchise.
Is there a network of Paul Bearers out there? Like, are we thinking about the wrong apocalypse here, and we're all just going to be overrun by Paul Bear? Oh my God, that's a movie.
How did you feel about them at the time? I mean, obviously the Abbott and Costello ones were probably meant to be humorous. Were you scared by the other ones?
By which one?
The other horror movies that you mentioned, Dracula, Wolfman. Did you find them scary, or was it just entertainment?
I just entertainment. I don't ever remember being scared by a horror movie.
Okay. Were you excited by them?
Trying to think, but no. I mean, the scariest, the only time I've ever been caught and startled and momentarily scared was Swamp Thing, I think it was, which is like some Bigfoot here in Florida.
Okay. As a movie, Swamp Thing?
Jump out at you things, and they did it very well. So that caught me.
Okay. I'm guessing you probably didn't have anybody in your family or friends in your childhood who were horror fans then?
Well, my wife of years past was a huge horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the horror movies I watched in my 20s and 30s were because of her.
Okay.
She never missed one if she could help it.
Nice.
But not in childhood.
Not in childhood.
Okay.
No, it was just, but like I said, there was 3 channels. It was black and white. You watched what there was on.
Yeah. Did you participate in Halloween as a kid?
Oh, yeah, man. I loved Halloween. And Halloween, you got to wear this god-awful plastic mask that hurt like hell, and you couldn't see out of.
I never remember. What are the name of them?
I can't remember either.
But on the other side, you just, back in my day, they just turned you out. I probably did 3 miles of Halloween trick-or-treating. I mean, I would go fill up a pillowcase and come back and get another one.
Take another pass.
Right.
Well, you make a loop, so that you end up back in your house. And you grab another pillowcase or dump it out and go hit rich people around the lake.
I guess back in the day when it was even more popular that you could do that, they might not even notice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wasn't hitting the same people twice. I mean, I was covering ground, man.
Did you have a favorite costume?
Well, I wore a clown costume for, I don't know, most of the time I went out trick-or-treating because that's what I had. And
not so much favorite not so much favorite in the sense that you enjoyed it, just favorite is easiest to do.
Yep.
You had this stuff.
It wasn't. This was what I had. This is who I was. I was the clown every year.
You were always destined to be great.
So, strangely enough, I turned into one of my most popular shows was a clown. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe not quite the same happy-faced clown as I was as a child.
Right. Normally, we also ask least favorite costume, but it sounds like you just reused the same one.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. It was, that mask was horrible. I mean, it was, you took that thing off as soon as you got your candy and turned around.
Yeah.
And then put it back on again until you were on the next doorstep.
Did you like the process of dressing up or getting done up, or was it just the candy that you were interested in?
Oh, I was all about the candy.
It's always that's the important part. Candy.
I have gone out for Halloween in times past. I used to build things and animate them. I'm I don't know, Rube Goldberg with animating things. I would set up skeletons and those stuffed clothes and stuff, and I would put a fishing line on them.
Yeah.
And as people came up to walk, I would drop the skeleton out of the tree, and they would get to the house, and I would pick up the hand of the stuffed clothes, the scarecrow or whatever,
right,
and wave at them and stuff like that. I enjoyed scaring the kids. It was fun. They liked it. They get, I enjoyed that part.
The reason I asked about if you enjoyed getting into the costumes and stuff is because you had mentioned that you did enjoy theater, so I don't know if there was any relation there.
Well, I don't know. I was never one of those child prodigies. My interest in theater started in the 7th grade.
Okay.
Which back in that day was junior high.
Right.
Went 1 through 6 in elementary school and 7 through 9 in junior high. And for some reason, unknown to me still today, I took drama as an elective and never stopped. So,
was there something in particular you enjoyed about it?
I really enjoy being somebody else. I mean, I have always been a real Walter Mitty in my head. Okay. Of playing different things, and I'm extremely empathetic, so I can put myself in somebody else's shoes fairly readily,
right?
And think like they think, and feel like they feel, and see why they think like they think and feel like they feel, and I suppose a good, well-regulated schizophrenia is very helpful to an actor,
right?
It can be.
I can relate. That's part of the reason that, the background that I have has been what it has, and also why Chris and I think, make a good pairing for the theme of what we're doing. He's the big horror fan, and I'm the one that has the background in the psychology stuff, which comes from having been empathetic and thinking about what other people are thinking and feeling and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Was there anything in childhood in real life that scared you?
I don't remember anything because it was a real different time then. I used to be like 10 years old, and I would be sent to town with $1, which would get me in a movie, popcorn, drinks, and 3 candy bars.
Wow!
And I didn't have that took up everything, so I didn't have bus fare home, which at the time was 10 cents.
You'd walk home.
So I walked about 3 miles home, and
not bad.
I walked through the white projects because they were separate then, and never thought about it. And nobody, my parents never thought about it. Nobody, none of the neighbors, nobody, anything but thought about that. So, and plus, I'm kind of an oblivious person anyway. I live in my head quite a lot.
Empathic when you think about, you got to be empathic when you're thinking about other people, but you're not always thinking about other people.
Yeah, I'm thinking about other people, but I'm thinking about them in my head. And, I'm a big reader, so and when I start reading, I don't see words anymore. I just see, it's like watching a movie.
Okay.
Big science fiction fan. So I've been a science fiction book club member since I was 16. I have. Okay. I just gave somebody 30 books, and you can't tell that there's a hole missing in my book collection.
So you have quite a collection then. Yeah.
I mean, it's a one whole room wall.
Is it mostly like sci-fi fiction, like the classics like Binford? Is it Greg Binford? David Brin?
My earliest big favorite was Isaac Asimov and the Foundation series.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have every single book of.
Wow. I have a few of his.
I've got every single book of Doom. Matter of fact, I just got a new book of Doom. Anne McCafferty.
There are a few to choose from.
Probably my favorite. C.J. Cherry is my favorite. But also Robert Lynn Asprin, who does fantasy and mythology. And
okay. What do you like about sci-fi?
That's that whole living in another life thing.
Okay. Did you have any recurring dreams when you were a kid?
I did have one where my father, who died when I was 14, was back. Was, I don't remember him doing anything scary other than just being there after I knew he was dead. That went on several times. I remember, and I don't remember what the thought was, but having that paralysis where you wake up and you can't move.
Sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis, yeah.
You're scared. That scared me that I couldn't move.
Understandably.
The sleep paralysis, that was separate though, not at the same time you were having the dream about your father?
I don't remember. Yeah, I'm not one of those people who has a strong timeline.
No, it's fine. And some of the questions that we ask may or may not apply to you. We just have them because you never know what's going to hit for who. All right. So last question for the childhood stuff. Nothing, you didn't mention anything really traumatic. So I'm guessing no existing like traumatic fears or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Another thing I did remember, my father died at home.
Okay.
And when the coroner came to take his body out, there was probably 30 cats in the yard. And like under the feet of the coroner people and around the gurney. And
really?
that kind of disturbed me a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That's weird. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't remember seeing, cats in my neighborhood other than in somebody's house, maybe.
Yeah. So they weren't like your cats on your property. They were just random neighborhood cats that all
it came from nowhere. It had to be other cat for miles.
That is a little creepy. That is quite unnerving. Yeah. Like some sleepwalker shit.
I mean, it's a little morbid, but I'm wondering, how long you had to wait for the coroner to get there because, the honest truth is things that have passed away give off a smell, and they might have been thinking food.
I don't know. Well, he died in the middle of the night because I remember my mother letting out this wail. He'd already had a couple of heart attacks. Back in those days, there was no open heart surgery or bypass, or basically, if the medicine didn't save you, then too bad.
Yeah, my grandfather passed away when I was just after I turned a year old, and by heart attack, multiple heart attacks, and my father's got a DNR because of that. As you say, there's not a whole lot they could do for you.
And it was that morning that they took him away. My mother, like I remember that scream that she let out, that woke me up.
Well, it was either that or they're attracted to the coroner. So, I mean, that might also be possible because, he's hauling around. And that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Because, never know who he had in the car before your father. And that person may have been deceased for a while. So they might have been attracted to the car.
Moral of the story, cats are the spawn of Satan and evil. And they will eat you if you die in your sleep.
Well, I was thinking, it makes sense in terms of, historically, if you have that happen and a lot of cats come around all of a sudden, that could be creepy.
It was.
Yeah, I'll bet. So, okay, moving into teenage years then, you had mentioned Carrie. Anything else jump out at you as interesting or scary or anything like that related to horror in your teenage years?
Not really.
Okay.
You said, we didn't have color TV until I was a teenager. So, and I watched Carrie after I was married. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you did mention theater in 7th grade. I know, for example, my high school had put on what the heck's the name of it? Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know when that got written, but I'm thinking, maybe you guys did something in theater that was related. No?
No, I don't remember that. Importance of Being Earnest, Blithe Spirit. I played every male part in Importance of Being Earnest at one time or another.
It's all serious stuff.
Death of a Salesman.
Okay.
Playboy of the Western World.
Haven't heard of that one.
Right, Brigadoon.
That one.
Iris Place. I did Marat Sod in college. That was kind of creepy.
Okay.
I did makeup on that show, so I had a lot of fun with that.
Let me write that one down. What was that? How do you spell that?
MARAT-SADE. The Marquis de Sade was in prison in an insane asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was there, he wrote plays.
Right.
And this is one of the plays featuring himself and Jean-Paul Marat, who I believe was in there because he was revolutionary. And it was a very bizarre play.
It sounds like it. Well, let's see. Going back to the teenage years then, I'm guessing you probably were still participating in Halloween by then.
Oh, yeah.
Did you upgrade your costume
as
at
long as
all?
they were giving out candy, I was going. By then I was just being like a cowboy or a bum or, whatever regular clothes kind of stuff that you could be.
No least favorite costumes that you recall?
Still going to be that clown suit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the go-to,
And I don't think it would ever have been my favorite. Now, as an adult, as I told you, I'm one of those people who fit in the group, don't fit in. So I started playing D&D almost when it came out.
Okay.
I started with the little pink box, which was the only other person who played it before me said it came in a Ziploc bag and it was just several pages. So my favorite character for Halloween has been a druid.
Okay.
Which was my character that I typically played.
Okay. Was it just like maybe a robe and a headdress, or did you go full on like face paint and? Oh
well, no. It was a robe and a cloak and feathers and bones in my hair, and that was back when I had hair. And I have a staff with a goat horn on the top of it, and I had found the jawbone of some predator, probably a dog,
nice,
that I had hanging from it, and of course feathers. And
anything in particular you liked about druids?
The fact that they're completely neutral.
Okay. What do you like about that?
I see both sides of a lot of things, and my religious philosophy, if you want to call it religious, is Taoism.
Okay.
Which is the attempt to balance everything. And the fact that if you've seen the symbol of Taoism with the like two wrapped teardrops looking things.
Yep.
There's a white dot in the black side and a black dot on the white side,
right.
Which nothing is pure. It takes the light to see the dark. It takes the dark to see the light.
Right. Unless you can transcend completely, but good luck with that.
Well, the goal in Taoism is to be the reasonable man. What would a reasonable man do? And within the balance.
Right.
And the fact that the line between the balance is curved and wiggly means that it's not a straight path.
Right. Variable.
Depends. It basically depends. And that's kind of druid. That's true neutral. It depends.
Okay. That's a very D&D way to describe it. It's a true neutral.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it a lawful neutral?
No.
No, I wasn't lawful neutral. I was true neutral. That's the way I played them. So you could be in danger from me if I perceived you as being a problem.
Yeah.
If you were not, if one of the players was trying to be a little bigger than necessary and was being a detriment to the party, then
got to put him in line.
Yeah, got to fix him. Got to again with a vengeance.
Let's see. So,
just another point. I was born on June 21st, which is the summer solstice, which is the high holy day for Druidism.
Interesting. Longest day too, I think.
It's the longest day, longest daylight of the year.
Winter solstice.
For the northern hemisphere. Shortest for the southern.
I can see how that would make sense.
And if you will go out in the woods at midnight with a full moon and cut me off some mistletoe with a silver scythe or silver sickle and catch it in a golden bowl, we can do some shit.
Okay. Writing this down. All right. So does it have to be like a full scythe, or can it just be a hand sickle?
This little hand sickle is what's usually depicted. It's like something that you would
like the children.
Inches long, not feet long.
Okay. All right.
Something you use by hand.
I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Jack, but both Chris and I were from the Tampa area. I've moved away since for work, but Chris still lives in the Tampa area, so you might actually get that. Chris could make some plans.
It's got to be silver. The sickle has to be silver, and the bowl has to be golden. So that may be harder to come by.
It's going to be a problem. Yeah,
it might be a very small sickle.
Rust.
Yeah, it's just like hand sized.
Metal. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you don't need very much to get.
I'm thinking like pinky sized.
Yeah, I would say maybe the whole thing along the curving is maybe 6 inches. But if you want to use Death's scythe, as long as it's silver.
Yeah. And probably go with the hand sickle because that'll be cheaper. I wonder now if that was what the imagery was in the the remake of Suspiria. They had these sickles that looked like they were actually a metal molding of a rib. I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with that. Well, no, because that was witchcraft, not druidism.
Well, the other thing too is to make it.
Oh, it has to be from an oak tree, by the way, too.
Okay.
It has to be mistletoe in an oak tree.
Well, there are plenty of those in Florida.
Yeah.
I doubt it was a scythe, Chris, because a rib. I mean, to be a functional scythe, you'd have to sharpen it, and that wouldn't work too well if it was a rib.
No, it was curved on the end, so yeah. It's more for stabbing.
So going back to the middle school and teenage years, then was that where you picked up D&D, or was that in your adult years?
Oh no, Lord, I was out of college.
Okay.
And actually on like my second career by then.
Okay. We'll move it. I'm making some notes here just so I can keep track of the conversation. I'll move that down to the adult section. Going back to the teenage stuff then. Let's see. So you didn't mention any specific references to any kind of books or TV or movies that jumped out at you. Were you still watching the Paul Bearer stuff in high school or middle school?
I think so. I don't really remember. It was probably there. I was in college when cable came, and that brought us up to 20 channels.
Yes.
So
27 if you were lucky.
Yeah, well, where we were.
If I remember correctly.
Chicago and Atlanta and some of the VHS channels that you could maybe get once a year, or if you had a very delicate touch on that little dial.
For some reason, I'm remembering MTV was channel 44 where my cousin lived. Odd, but it's odd what sticks in the memory.
Yeah, everything was analog then, so you had to have a very delicate touch on that UHF dial.
Not for cable. You're talking about before cable.
Oh yeah, before cable. But
okay.
After that, it was just you have a separate channel changer.
Yep.
Cable.
Okay. So
I even remember why the remote is called the clicker.
Because it clicked.
The first remote was basically a set of tuning forks in a box, and you pushed a button and it smacked the tuning fork, and that frequency was what changed the channel or changed the volume.
Yep, I remember these, and they had two large buttons on the top. One was orange and one was kind of off-white, both of course a dingy color, but yeah, that's how they worked. It was like a tuning fork. It would make a certain clang, and that's how it would change the channel.
That hit the little bar, I guess, is what was in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have any friends or family, I'm guessing, in your teenage years that were fans of horror either?
Friends?
Yeah, well,
I know not of what you speak.
Yes, I get your point.
Imaginary friends count too.
Yes. Yeah.
And my family was, I was very late in my generation. My mother was 39 when I was born.
Okay.
My brothers were 12, 14, and 16 when I was born.
Mm.
And the rest of the cousins and the aunts and uncles were all in that 40s generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in the 50s. So actually, some of them were in the 30s generation.
I can relate to that as well, although I'm a generation behind. I was raised by my grandmother primarily, and so all of my cousins, well, I had two cousins that were older and two cousins that were younger, but they didn't live near me, so I was going with my grandmother to see her siblings, and their kids were all 10 years older than I was or more, so yeah.
Yeah, my closest cousin was 8 years older than me. I remember having a crush on her when I was really too young to be having crushes.
Right.
So
You didn't know better.
that is South Carolina, so it's legal.
Still, maybe. Yeah.
Well, back then. Let's see. Did anything actually scary happen to you in your teenage years?
Not that I recall. My teenage years were just very routine. Very routine. I was in sports year round. So after school, every day in something. Football, wrestling, and track.
They kept you busy.
And theater took up days too. So.
All right. So really to cover in the teenage years, I guess we'll jump back down to the adult stuff then.
Okay.
You'd mentioned Carrie. Between Carrie and Pumpkinhead, anything in your adult years that has jumped out at you that's, let me put it this way, not work related?
I remember kind of liking the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies.
Yep. Those are good.
But to me, that's not horror. That's just, I guess, to you it is, maybe, I don't know.
There were some scary elements.
Yeah, one guy got his eyes eaten.
I mean, I have a lot of friends and a lot of fans because of Gertie. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly discoursing about the horror films that they like to watch. And a lot of them like the B movies, the poor quality movies for the very fact that they're poor quality.
Yeah. There's the so good it's bad genre,
That too.
Yeah, they like the terrible acting. They like the poor production quality. They love it.
And what about you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, I try to be highly professional in my acting career.
Well, that's a whole other genre too, of where you've got the B movies, but at least one or more people in them are taking the job completely seriously.
Yeah. Probably the highest compliment I have ever gotten as an actor was by Mike Gingold at Fangoria when we were out shopping the movie. He said, Gertie never speaks. So he says, the clown never speaks, but you always know what he's thinking. Mm-hmm. And for those of us who are professional actors, that is probably the highest compliment you can give us.
Yeah.
That means that we are truly 100% the character.
That is good.
Yeah. In a way, it's kind of the definition of show don't tell, because he doesn't tell. He doesn't speak a single word, so it's all show.
Let's see. Anything else jump out at you related to horror in your adult years?
Read any good books?
No, I did a thing for Mark Terry. I don't know if you know him. Maybe if you're Tampa local, you've heard of him.
What's he involved in?
He did Evil Dead, or not Evil Dead, Live Evil, which was a vampire movie. In California, I worked on that. And then he also did one called The Meltdown, which I also worked on.
Okay.
The Live Evil was distributed. I think he actually made money on that one. And The Meltdown, as far as I know, has still not been made other than the trailer. I have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and they call on me because they know they can count on me. I'm a very responsible person as far as.
Okay.
I remember on The Meltdown, and being in California, I probably offended at least 10 or 15 unions because I made props for the film. I did makeup for the film. I drove a grip truck for the film. There's 3 unions right there.
Right.
Oh, I did set dressing for the film. So,
Stealing our work, you scab.
I did pyro.
If you live in almost any other part of the country, it's kind of like you got to do that because those unions don't really have enough people to do all the stuff that needs to get done.
Well, and you're on that micro budget too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we shot 100 Tears. I believe the final cost was somewhere around $60,000-$70,000.
Wow.
That's significant for a small.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he got some foreign investment actually. Elmar Bergman from Germany put in a substantial amount.
Any relation to Ingmar?
I don't know. He's a horror fan and a friend of Timo Rose. If you run across him,
Doesn't ring a bell for me, Chris.
No.
no. Once you get into the industry, the connection. It's actually a very small community, and once you're in there, you know everybody. I mean, I don't walk onto a set in Florida anymore that I don't know half the people there. And I can go down to Miami and shoot the next whatever's being shot down there, and I guarantee you I'll know half the people by first name.
Yeah, like I say, outside of California, that's how it is because there's not a lot of people, not as many people per capita, I guess you could say, doing it.
And even when I've gone to California to shoot, I still know 4 or 5 people on set.
Yeah,
It's just because the community's really not that big.
Well, and also the higher up you go in any career field, really, it gets narrower in that way too. It's a small world. So if not horror media, then similar as we asked with the childhood and teenage years, has there been anything in your adult years that has scared you in real life?
Nothing that wouldn't scare anybody. Near misses in traffic,
Taxes,
of course.
pandemics.
Been a stunt driver, certified stunt driver. That's kept me out of a lot of accidents. when you're
I would imagine it would have.
When you're doing this stuff on purpose, and then it happens accidentally, you don't have to think through what to do. You just have reflexes,
right?
And that, I don't know, half second, 1/10 of a second, whatever it is, usually keeps you out of the wreck.
Right.
So
that's good.
That's a good point. Yeah. Stunt driving can prepare you for real shit.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you got that training in relation to some job you were doing?
Back when I was trying to break in the Florida market, I realized real quick that the more you bring to the set, the more you're going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So I took a stunt and precision driving with Grady Bishop. He's a local stunt man. He's done some of the Universal car stunts, or has coordinated them. He's coordinated a lot of stuff. Almost coordinated an episode of Jackass, but I got talked out of it by a lot of people.
Why's that?
Well, there's liability issues of what they try to do, and this was a fire gag. So, I was just expecting these guys to get horrible burns. And there was no way I could.
And they probably would have.
Yeah, they had a guy walking across the balance beam while the other ones were swinging medicine balls at him, trying to knock him off.
Yeah,
over a pit of fire, like a firewalker pit, just cold.
Gotcha.
But it's like, you get knocked off of there, you're out of control. You're going to land flat on your body, and there's no way you're going to get up without getting burnt really bad.
Yep.
So
that was part of their shtick, yeah.
So unless the guys were not actually trying to knock him off, then
that would have been the only way through it to
it would have had to have been a set gig. It had to have been some WWE stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your adult life, have you had any friends or family you did mention your wife, any other friends or family that were horror fans?
Oh, my daughter's a big horror fan. And my grandchildren are big horror fans.
Really? Do you think that's because of your roles?
No, I'm nobody to them. I mean, you know, it's like I remember Tom Brady saying, "When I get home, I'm just the idiot." My wife calls me the idiot. The kids agree with her.
One way of looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I have tried, to get my kids interested in film because I have all the connections,
Mm-hmm.
and they just are 100% not interested. I mean, my grandkids couldn't even do their school Christmas song thing. Neither one of them.
I just meant as far as being a fan, had they seen your work?
Yeah, my daughter has seen 100 Tears. She's seen the O show. I mean, I have all this stuff. I get a copy of everything.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen the O show. It's basically a game show where if you lose, you get something cut off.
Oh, huh. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
It's like Truth or Consequences, where they're real bad consequences.
Oh, yeah.
So it is either the goriest comedy you've ever seen or the funniest horror movie you've ever seen.
It's a bit of both. You
I
got
mean,
the people in
it's
the front
actually
row with
hilarious.
the ponchos.
Wine Coop is in there. He's the MC of the show. And I think, what's his name? Brooke was in there too. Brooke, the Wild Boys guy. I'm terrible with names.
It's all right, so am I.
Yeah, they all run together after a while. I mean, when you're going from one shoot to the next, you have trouble separating them. Faces,
not names.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we know each other. I probably know the names of more crew members than I do actors.
Well, I was just going to say, especially with the actors, because if you're playing a role and you're calling each other by these other names, then unless I can see how that could interfere with things too. But you don't do that with the crew members; their name is always their name.
Yeah, and they're all you see the same crew members on different sets, where you don't see the same actors from set to set to set.
True.
Yeah.
Let me ask 2 different questions that aren't just related to horror, and also looking back over your entire life, not just any one period. I'm going to ask 2 questions. I'm going to give them to you at the same time because it could be the same answer for both questions, or they could be different answers. But the questions would be: what is your favorite movie, and what movie have you watched more times than any other?
There's 2 that come to mind.
Okay.
One is The Longest Day.
Okay.
The World War II Normandy invasion movie that was 4 hours long. My brother took me to that. I was really small.
Mm-hmm.
He took me to that, and we watched that. And I've probably watched that one more often than I have any other. I believe it had every actor in America or Europe. And my favorite one is Up Periscope or Down Periscope. Is a submarine movie with I think his character's name is Fraser. The TV show.
Oh, Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, he was the submarine commander, and it had a band of misfits in it, including the guy who does the sound effects with his mouth, not
Michael Winslow.
Not him, the white guy. That does
it. A white guy who does sound effects with his mouth?
Yeah. I remember he was the sonar guy, and Kelsey Grammer asked him, "What did you hear?" He said, "Somebody dropped 35 cents. And he says, "Are you sure?" "Yes, a quarter and 2 nickels."
Yep.
And they saved themselves from being detected by him accurately doing whale sounds.
Okay.
I mean, it's a hilarious movie. I mean, it's just probably slapstick more than anything else. And
I was just going to say, definitely a comedy.
Oh yeah, it was just one of the one movie I laughed my way all the way through, and because of that, it's a favorite.
All right, understood. So the reason that we like to bring these up is because often they can either underscore things we've already talked about or highlight new things. And actually, in both cases, I think it highlights new things because you hadn't really mentioned comedy yet. But also with The Longest Day, I mean, it's a 4-hour movie. So for you to say that you've seen that probably more often than any other is interesting because, number one, it's a long movie. Number two, it means you've probably gone out and sought it out to rewatch it. Any reason why you like to rewatch it?
Well, there's the acting is superb. The production value is superb. I like war movies. And, come to think of it, modern war movies are a gore fest as well.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, I do special effects. It's one of my multitude of activities on set. So I have done a lot of gore.
Okay.
I'll never meet the level of, oh, Lord God, I already forgot his name.
Tom Savini, you say?
No.
Baker.
I did a film with him. I don't like him. It was a sci-fi movie called, I can't remember that name either. Like I said, they all run together.
Yeah.
But he was actually in it as an actor. He was kind of a jerk. It was a science fiction movie about this, Unearthed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It rings a bell. I don't think I've seen it, but I've heard about it.
Well, there was two movies that came out called Unearthed at about the same time. And this is the one that really didn't make it. I've done a lot of movies where the guy who is the driving force, the dreamer behind the movie, ended up divorced because he screwed up his marriage making the movie. Another one called Out of Hand. Is where
Stress
a demon takes over this guy's hand and gets him in all kinds of troubles.
Okay.
I think I've heard of that, actually. Stress, is the biggest killer of marriages. And there is definitely something stressful about both making a movie, not only in terms of, financial resources, but also just the work involved.
Oh, yeah, the time. I mean, you're half day to an actor is 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's a half day. Because we're usually there 14 hours, and the only reason it's 14 hours is because the union requires that there be a 10-hour gap in between wrap and call.
I was on a film set once where I think we were there 14 hours, and we got a total of 9 minutes of footage filmed. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing how little you get. And for an actor, you're sitting around on set, just it seems like eons. Well, somebody with real anal, twitchy, blankety blank blank fiddles with lights.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. Nobody's going to notice this but another lighting guy.
Yes. Well, and Kubrick.
And Kubrick, yeah.
On any given Sunday, I had one of those guys. And here's Cuba Gooding. We're on Miami Beach shooting this in full summer daylight. And this guy has, I think it was 3 10Ks on him. It was like, My God, how much light do you need? I was waiting on Cuba to burst into fire.
Or at least sweat. So, I'm looking for common themes in what you do. Like you did mention vengeance.
Yeah. A lot of horror is comedic.
True.
I know Joe Davidson, our producer and writer for 100 Tears. I mean, he was a stand-up comedian for years and years.
Yes.
So
we talked to him.
He's wrote a lot of comedy into it. And he's kind of a smart-ass comic, where you make some kind of smart-ass comment.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yeah, Joe's a fun guy.
You hadn't really brought up comedy much in the interview. Is that a common theme going back your whole life?
Once again, I'm very picky about the comedy too. It has to be intelligent comedy. It has. That's one of the things about horror that gets me is the extremely poor decisions. That Geico commercial where they're saying, let's go get in the attic. No, let's get in the basement. Oh, let's hide behind all those hanging chainsaws.
Right.
Yes, that's it. And even the monster's going, Jesus Christ.
Really?
No, let's
make
get
it a challenge, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I just read on Facebook. It's a horror movie starts out with a guy who gets on a boat, goes to an island with only enough gas to get there. Gets there, there's all these creepy children walking around and nobody else. So you go in and loot stores for the stuff you need. And then I'm thinking, it's an island, and there's no gas in a marina or a gas station or another car or another boat. It's an island.
Go on to the island.
It's because I'm one of these problem solver kind of guys.
No, I can understand that too. That actually was one of my personal dislikes with horror too. Growing up is, as you say, and intelligence was important to me too, and just a lot of stupid decisions.
It's like necessary.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a feature of the plot is people have to make stupid decisions. That's just part of it.
Let's go to the attic. No, you're trapped.
Why? Go upstairs.
There's that phrase, willing suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
And there are some that definitely cross that line. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, intelligence is definitely a running theme. You mentioned, sci-fi and your experiences with school. I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I kind of jokingly referenced being a Rhodes Scholar. Because I think if I remember correctly, a Rhodes Scholar also has the athletic angle in there.
I was brought in and told me I was going to graduate with honors, and I didn't know what it meant. That's how oblivious I was in high school. Here I am taking AP courses and making, like 3.8 or something average, and it's never occurred to me that I was smart.
It never does with the intelligent ones. You just
I'm sure there's a South Carolina joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, nobody in high school, teachers and administrators included, said anything about me being smart. Just recently had somebody post one of my, third, fourth grade class pictures, and somebody else who also went to the school and was friends with some of us said, "Oh yeah, that was the smart class." I was like, "Really?
Was it?" Didn't feel that way to me.
It's just class.
Yeah.
And I was always a kid that once you told it to me, I got it. I remember in 7th, 8th grade, I was reading, which is what I usually did in school. Teacher was all mad at me because I wasn't paying attention to her. English teacher says, "Come up and diagram the sentence." So I walked up there and I diagrammed the sentence. Like ding, 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 ding. Is that it? Yeah, that's right.
Back to my desk.
Okay, you taught me that 2 or 3 years ago. Did it change?
Yep. I did a very similar thing. I remember it was also in middle school. I was reading a book, and I wasn't ignoring the teacher. I was listening, but she wasn't doing anything that needed to be paid attention to visually. and she thought she was going to be a wise ass and catch me and say something, "Steve, what did I just say?" And without even picking my head up from the book, I repeated verbatim her last sentence. Paused and went on with what she was doing.
Like, very well then.
Yep, gotcha.
Don't try me.
Yeah.
All right. See, it's funny. When Chris and I were first starting, this whole idea of this podcast, the first things that we did were interview each other, and then also interviewed a friend of ours named DJ. And he was also very similar in that he was a much bigger sci-fi fan than horror, and also that intelligence was something that was very important to him throughout his whole life. I can definitely see that there's being some commonalities there. So for you, it sounds like, if the horror seems at least to be decently well thought out and or is funny in some way, that those gain some points for you. But obviously there's not a lot that hits both of those categories.
As I said, I enjoyed watching Pumpkinhead here last week, and
what'd you like about it?
Well, I was thinking that they kept going outside.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is vengeance, and you did mention that Pumpkinhead had vengeance.
Yeah, it was all about vengeance, and then of course it backfired, because when you screw around with demons, it backfires.
Yeah, monkey spots and everything. You're right, though. I never really thought about that with Pumpkinhead. They do make intelligent decisions. They don't go up to the attic. They go outside. They try and hit the demon over the head with a large object, not just push it or.
Yeah, no, I don't know. They deserved it, honestly. They killed a kid.
Yeah.
Bunch of assholes.
And that was the other common factor that had come up, was the vengeance, which we discussed and why that was important to you. Normally, the last couple questions involve questions like, okay, but why horror? Because there could be any other number of things that trigger those kinds of emotions. So why horror? In your case, I'm guessing, because you don't really consider yourself a horror fan, that's not really a relevant question for you because you do find those other things in other movies. You probably watch comedies for the comedy content and maybe sci-fi for sci-fi content and war movies for war content. So maybe why horror wouldn't be applicable to you.
Yeah, it just struck me that each one of those has their particular flavor of adrenaline. You watch the war movies, there's a lot of action and violence, and there's the adrenaline you get from that. There's the adrenaline you get from laughing. There's the adrenaline you get from fear from the horror movies. It's probably what makes us all like those particular things is our particular drug that provides us with adrenaline.
Yeah, or like you say, the particular flavor of it. Considering the theme of the podcast, is there anything relevant that you're aware of that we haven't asked about or talked about?
Life experience, probably. My name is Jack. I took that seriously. My master's degree is in sports medicine. I started out as an athletic trainer. I was an unpaid intern with the Atlanta Falcons. Taught high school math and was a trainer in Dade County. Taught at Miami High.
Okay.
Taught at Miami Southridge. Was moved on from there into various types of management. Had my own handyman business. Did a lot of building maintenance and repair. I like puzzles. I like things to solve. And repairing things is like solving a puzzle.
Okay.
So I've always enjoyed that and making things with my hands, with my mind. There and drama all the way throughout, but then I got laid off from some job and said, well, let me go see what's going on. Caught an ad. They were looking for extras, and I answered the ad. Next thing I know, I spent the next 15 years as a full-time actor. And then probably another 5 or 6 years as a starving, can't make it actor. I mean, it really got to the point where if I had booked every audition I went on, it still wouldn't have been enough to make a living.
So how does this extra context about being a jack of all trades tie in with the stuff we talked about? Well,
I'm poor as a church mouse, but I'm a billionaire in life experience. So I can do a certain amount of things. And as an actor, we need you to play an athlete, and you need you to play a boss of a company. We need you to play a workman. We need you to play, and I don't really have to act
because you've done a lot of those things.
I can just do it. And as an actor, most of the time your cast is you. Yeah. It's just you in these imaginary circumstances. Yep. It's very seldom you get a chance to really use your craft, which was one of the things that I really enjoyed about 100 Tears was I got to use my craft because I'm playing somebody that I would never be.
True.
And I did a play called Grace. It was about the woman who turned in her uncle being Robert Chambliss, who was the first of the Klan members that was convicted of the Birmingham church bombing.
Okay.
Wow.
And I played him. So
yeah,
I really had to work hard to get to that guy.
That will test your skills as an actor, playing somebody.
And sometimes your applause at the end of the show, this is a live show, your applause at the end is that profound silence when you walk out.
Right. Yeah, if everyone's just like shocked and stunned, it's just I did a good job.
They hated that guy, and for good reason. Yeah. And I made him as hateful as I possibly could. Because he was. I mean, I did research on the guy, and he was horrible individual.
Touching on what you said a minute ago about horror really letting you get to stretch as an actor. that also does sync with a number of things that got brought up in this call too. Not just D&D, but all the way going back to, theater and in middle school and whatnot about, being able to get to be someone else or pretend you're somewhere else. Actually, I guess that's an interesting thing that we didn't ask about. Was there any particular reason that you enjoyed? Well, actually, you did kind of talk on that, but you mentioned that you were a bit of a loner. But it started making me wonder if there was something about, either the home you were brought up in or the small town that you lived in or something like that made you enjoy the thought of being somewhere else or being someone else.
No, I think it's just my inherent personality has been self-entertaining, by and large. And of course, back in the day, you were kicked out of the house in the morning and told to come back when the streetlights came on. You were allowed to drop by for lunch if you.
Yeah, that was about it.
Yep.
So we didn't sit on TV. We didn't sit on the phone.
The internet. Yeah.
I remember as a teenager, literally finishing a paperback, reading a whole paperback, and starting another one in a day.
Yeah. Now, how thick of a paperback? Are we talking 200, 500 pages? Or
200-300 pages, something like that.
Okay. That's impressive.
I ripped through libraries, boy.
Yeah, because then there are days where it's raining, and so you gotta have something else you can do.
Yeah, so and once it's, like I said, I stop seeing words once I get going.
Yeah,
I'm just watching it happen in my head, and so I literally am living the life of somebody in that book, or at least, I'm an NPC sitting on the sidelines watching.
Bit of a dreamer.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've not found a good reason to love horror, or at least some reasons to appreciate it. Is there anything, we talked about at the start, anything you want to pitch before we close the call?
No, I'm not really active anymore with stuff going on. Like I said, Joel Wynkoop is out. He's in science fiction now. He's doing some kind of alien thing called the Craiglin Incident.
Yep.
This is the follow-up that he's out there working on now. So
okay,
I'll plug it for him. He and I are friends.
There you go.
And he's probably one of the best self-promoters I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
He's got his lips on the horn all the time. So, and he and his wife Kathy are probably the couplest couple I've ever seen in my life. They really get along really well.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them.
And she's all into it too. So I'll promote it for them.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll put together a little bio for you on our webpage, and we can link to whatever you want to link to, and I can throw a link in there to Joel's stuff for you if you'd like.
Okay, even though I've never done one of his gigs. We've worked together quite a bit.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes.
You as well.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
And thank you to anybody out there listening. Please, again, do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We've got a list there of people that we'd like to interview. If you know anybody and can get us in touch, please do. If you want to have somebody added to the list, let us know. Reach out to us on any of the social media pages that we have linked there and let us know how we're doing. horrormakesushappy.com.